and happy holidays to everybody out there. It is Thursday night football here on the lines. Matt Brown, Steven Anders, Adam Candy coming to you. It's the New Orleans Saints and the Los Angeles Rams. As always, everything to do, absolutely free. Hit that subscribe button down below, and let's get to 50,000 by the Super Bowl. I think we can do it. You can help us do it. So let's go ahead and do that. And if you happen to be one of the subscribers, if we do hit that 50K, we're going to do a big giveaway, and you can be a part of it. As we sit right now, Rams 3.5-point favorites at home. This is toggling now between 3.5 and 4, so it will likely do that all the way up to kickoff. 45 is the prevailing total in this one. Adam, we know that Olave is going to be back for the Saints. I guess the question is, does that matter?
It does. The question really becomes, what do you make of the last 2 weeks of Saints football? We talked a little bit when you were not here last week about how the Saints were outgained by the Carolina Panthers by 100 yards and still somehow beat them by nearly 3 touchdowns. And so something is at least better with the Saints coming off last week against the New York Giants. But again, who have you beaten? You've beaten the New York Giants and the Carolina Panthers, and you did what you were supposed to do. The Rams, on the other hand, look like a team on the come right now, and the offense is back to clicking. Matthew Stafford is back to looking like himself. They're as healthy as they've been all year. So, Matt, the theme for me this week with all of these games is that I have a number of games that are right around what I make them, and yet situationally, you look here at a spot with the Rams, and you say, man, one team is absolutely trending a better direction than the other. So, because we're toggling, says to me there's at least an opportunity that this could get back to 3. If you want to wait, I think there's going to be a 3.5 on the board somewhere all the way up to kick. And I would think that the play here for me would be Rams if I were to get involved. Lean, not a play for me at this point.
Yeah, I laid the 3.5, and it's along the lines of what you just said, Adam. So let's just go even further back than the last 2 weeks. Here are the teams the Saints have beaten. The Saints are 7-7. Titans, Panthers, Patriots, Colts, Bears, Panthers, Giants. How many of those teams have a winning record? 1. It's the Colts, who are 8-6. So they have beaten one team with a winning record. And this is not one of those you can only beat the teams on your schedule thing, because they've had an opportunity to beat good teams. They just haven't done it. They lost to the Packers. They lost to the Bucks. They lost to the Texans. They lost to the Jags. They lost to the Vikings. They lost to the Lions. They've lost to every good team that they played all season long. And Steven, for me, I have the Rams as a good team. I mean, a surprisingly good team. But Matthew Stafford playing as good as we have seen him play in quite a while. The defense, which I thought was going to be a bottom 3 or 4 unit in the entire NFL over the last half of the season, has been a top 12 unit. And Puka Nacua comes out of nowhere, and welcome back Cooper Kupp. I like the Rams here a decent amount. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm interested here at 3.5.
I guess I'm going heads up against you guys because I bet Saints plus 4.5, and I would still bet it at plus 4. And I think, credit to the Rams. This has been the team that has risen in the lines.com power rankings this season more than any other. Our staff had them as a bottom 5 team coming into the year. And this week, for the first time, pretty much all of us have them in the top 10. So credit where credit is due. But I still have concerns about their defense specifically. This is still the number 21 defense by EPA. They don't generate any pressure, which is what will hurt Derek Carr in most weeks. They're only 29th in pressure rate. By EPA, they're 19th. And even since the bye week, since the Rams have started to play better, win more games, take the Ravens to overtime, this is still only the 17th defense by EPA since their bye week. So, and over the same span, for all the issues the Saints have offensively, week to week, I never know which Saints team I'm going to get any given week. Since the Rams bye week, that same span of time, the Saints can still move the ball through the air. They're still number 3 in drop back success rate. So I always have concerns about the red zone, but this to me is asking a lot less of the Saints than what we've been asking of them in recent weeks, to cover as favorites, to win by more than a field goal. Now I get them as a pretty decent dog on the turf in basically a dome, in a field that doesn't have much of a home field advantage. So those were my reasons for taking the Saints in the points.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could get there with it being on the other side of a field goal. I just think if I think of the likelier scenarios, and Adam, I think you're maybe leaning towards me, or maybe you just think that this is unplayable. I actually think the Rams could win at margin, if we're being honest. I mean, there is just very, very little offense being generated at all by the Saints. If you look into these box scores, like much, much more, if you dig into them, there were short fields, there were ugly situations. There's all like there's a lot of fakeness even in the wins, right? Like there is not a lot of real points being scored by this team at all. And so the Rams on the other hand, from an offensive perspective, I mean, it's a top 12 offense. It's a top 10 offense in some of the metrics. It's a top 8 offense in some of the other ones over the last half of the season. And so, like you said, Adam, I think it's just two teams heading in two different directions.
Yeah, and to Steven's idea of you don't know which Saints team you're going to get, I truly think you've only seen the good Saints team once or twice all season long. And the last time I saw it was the Indianapolis game that they won 38-27. The game against Chicago that they won 24-17 was Tyson Bagent for the Chicago Bears. And then you get them going up against teams kind of in that middle pack of Minnesota, even Atlanta, who, you guys know I don't like Atlanta at all. And then Detroit, and then the game against Carolina that Steven and I talked about last week, which was a really deceiving kind of outcome. So yes, Matt, I'm with you on that. It could be Rams at margin. My reason for saying wait was just to see if maybe you get a 3, because this was 4 as of this morning, and we're seeing some buyback to come back to 3.5. If I were to go with Steven's theory on the Rams defense and that maybe the Rams defense isn't what it needs to be, then I would probably play over. And I don't see any way in which the Rams are not scoring in this game.
Yeah, I think a first half over may be an interesting look just because of they might kind of be toggling there back and forth there early. I do have one player prop in this game as well. So Kyron Williams has to miss 4 games, comes back. They ease him in against Arizona, 41 snaps and 16 carries. Then the last 3 weeks in various game states, which lets me know that he's kind of game state independent, right? In all of this, like Cleveland, he plays 60 snaps, 21 carries. Baltimore, he plays 69 snaps, 25 carries. Washington, he plays 58 snaps, 27 carries. 18.5 or 19.5. It's a juiced 18.5 or a flat 19.5 on his rush attempts on carries. There's basically no competition for him in this backfield at all. And they're not giving any of these other guys any carries. And so for me, if I think the Rams are going to have success, it's either going to be because he's being successful, and by a byproduct of that would be in the second half, which is what we've seen McVay do almost to his detriment too much, is get conservative, try to run the clock out, run with Kyron Williams over and over and over again. So I'm not betting the yardage, though I don't hate it. It's like 88.5, 89.5, but just give me the attempts, because I think the attempts, I don't know how fruitful they will be, but I think the attempts will at least be there.
Yeah, he's absolutely a bell cow at this point. And if you're watching on the YouTube side, my lights start going out like the Superdome hosting the Super Bowl, which might be a bad sign for my Saints +4 bet here. But I disagree with you guys on the side. I do agree with the total here. Matt, you like Kyron Williams and his volume. I think that lends itself to a high scoring game as well, because he is so efficient in the running game. It's almost like the Rams will throw to get a lead and then run to keep that lead in the second half. So I do agree with you guys that the Rams are going to score points in this game most likely. And, if you look on paper, somebody might make the argument that the Saints have a good defense and maybe they match up well, but I think the metrics for the Saints defense are pretty fraudulent at this point. If you look at the actual good offenses that they've played this year, they've given up 5+ yards per play to basically every single one of them. The Bucs, the Texans, the Jaguars, Shane Steichen's Colts, Kevin O'Connell's Vikings when Josh Dobbs was the quarterback, and the Lions offense. And they've allowed an average of 27 points per game against those offenses. So I think the Saints' defensive success has been very dependent on the quality of opponent that they have faced this year. And also, we know from multiple seasons that if Matthew Stafford is not getting pressured, he's probably going to operate very efficiently with the high-quality receivers that he has in his arsenal. And both of these defenses are in the bottom 11 in pressure rate. So I do think if I had to choose between the two, I think I like the over better than the Saints to cover in this game.
Adam, same game parlay. We know rest of the country, same game parlay. Take this down to like 41.5, 41, maybe take the Rams down to under a 2.5, something like that. Maybe take Kyron Williams over 50, over 60 rushing yards, something like that. Like, I think you could tell a story of Rams success and get maybe a little bit favorable numbers here.
If you're going to go that way, Matt, I might lean even harder into the tail of the Rams at margin and go with something that's slightly negatively correlated based on what you just said. I might take the Rams out to 9.5, and then also put it with Kyron Williams overs, because we know, as you just said, he's not game state dependent, but that's a negative correlation there where you say, oh, Kyron Williams is going to be in this game for a long time if they're up. I don't think he has to be. I think they have the ability for him to get yards and get touches even when they're a team that could be significantly ahead. I don't think it necessarily means that they're going to pull him from the game. So I think you could end up with a play here that ends up more in that 9 or 10 to 1 range if you want to run the Rams out to a bigger number, and then maybe take on the other side with the Saints, take some unders on guys like Olave when it might be tough sledding for Derek Carr if they are able to get home on him at all.
Guys, like we said, everything we do, absolutely free. Hit the subscribe button. Head over to Lions.com. Upper right-hand corner is the Discord. That is absolutely free as well. Get in there and talk this game all the way up until kickoff. And we cannot preach this enough. There is a little button. It's a little green button. It says Prop Finder. It's on the homepage. Click on if you're going to play a prop, just click on the Prop Finder and make sure you're getting the best number and the best juice and all the things like that. Like, it is the best thing we have on the site. Be sure, go in, use it, because listen, every yard matters. There's no reason to play a prop at like a yard or two higher when you don't have to. Like, if you're paying the exact same juice, then take the lower number or the higher number, depending on if you're playing overs or unders. So be sure and take advantage of that as well. Good luck on all your Thursday night football bets.